A good atheist is hard to find. I want you to hold that thought. Okay? John tells a story about Jesus. I just read it to you. In which Jesus says, "Father, glorify your name." Evangelical Christians love this Father, glorify language. They love it. God only knows what it means. Anyway, the story continues. Then a voice came from heaven. "I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again." More murkiness insofar as we still have no idea what it means for God to glorify God's name. But let's press on anyway. The crowd standing there heard it, meaning the voice from heaven, and said it was thunder. Others said, an angel spoke to him, and then so on and so forth. Now I find it interesting that in this story, Jesus hears one thing, and the crowd gathered hears another. Jesus hears a voice from heaven. The crowd hears thunder, right? Some of those in the crowd say that it is a voice that they hear, but that it's the voice of an angel, as if anyone can tell the difference between the voice of an angel and the voice of God. It is probably worth pointing out that scholars generally believe that when angels are invoked in these stories, they serve as stand-ins for God. They're God's messengers, they're God's emissaries. But either way, we're talking voices from heaven. The curious thing is that Jesus thinks he hears God, the crowd thinks it's thunder, and some in the crowd think they hear an angel. Why this discrepancy? I don't think we can make much sense of this if we treat this story as something that happened one day in the walking around world that we inhabit. Taken as bits of history, stories such as this give atheists a field day, because at face value the story makes no sense. But I don't want to give atheists a field day. So let's look beneath the surface and see if this story might be saying something more to us. Try this. It seems to me that this story illustrates how two or more people can experience the same thing and come to different conclusions about what their experience means. Jesus hears the voice of God, the crowd hears thunder, and some in the crowd hear angels. It's useful to remember, as we approach Holy Week, that the people who encountered Jesus drew different conclusions about who he was. Now, some thought he was the Christ of God. Others viewed him as a country prophet. Some saw him as a healer and miracle worker. Some believed him to be a provocateur and a threat to social stability. Some saw him as an itinerant rabbi. Some thought he was a cute guy with really great eyes. Others hardly noticed him at all. There were those who saw his death as a human tragedy. There were those who saw in it the mechanism for God's salvation of the world. To others, it was good riddance to a nuisance. Different people with different perspectives, which may be equally honest in their appraisals of Jesus, knowing Jesus as they are able to know him as best their lights will allow. Now, there's an analogy here to the question of whether or not people believe in God. Atheists say that there is no reason to believe. Religious people, let's just say for the heck of it, Christians, okay? Religious people, they say that there is reason to believe. The atheist says there is no evidence for the existence of God. The Christian, if she or he knows her or his business, says that the whole universe is evidence, that the evidence is everywhere. The atheist looks at the universe and sees just the physical universe, a whole lot of stuff. The Christian looks at the universe and sees a creator at work. And this because, nothing comes from nothing. And science hasn't a clue as to why there is this huge something, this everything that we call the universe. Now, what's the answer to this from the atheist? Well, they say they don't want to think about the question, or at least that they don't want to think about it very deeply. But before, this is the bad point in the sermon, before Christian believers become too smug, it has to be admitted that there has been and is so much stupidity and ignorance put forward in the name of God that atheism can seem like positive enlightenment by comparison. Think of Islamist suicide bombers, or those who kill their daughters for the sake of family honor. Or think about 60+% of the people of Alabama and Mississippi, Christians I would imagine, who can't bring themselves to believe in evolution and persist in the belief that President Obama is a Muslim and so on and so forth. Or Jews who believe that they're entitled to occupy exclusively the land of Israel because the Bible tells them so. And then there's voodoo and Santeria practices. And then, of course, there's the Pope's infallibility and prohibitions against birth control and the Quran as the literal word of God, direct from Allah's lips to Muhammad's ears via the angel. Now, need I go on? I best not go on, or you're going to be going out and joining the atheist camp. Still, all this having been said, atheism cannot account for why there is something, the universe, rather than nothing, let alone why the universe works the way it does. And that is a rather glaring omission on their part. The new atheists are nevertheless evangelistic. They want to make converts. They think that they have logic and science and reason and common sense on their side. In fact, they don't. What they have done is to set up straw men to knock down, or taken the straw men which unthinking religion sets up and knocked them down. But even if religion gets it wrong, even if religion gets it horribly wrong, that is no evidence